You're not stuck. You're just still living in a version of yourself that no longer exists. And until you let go of that identity, no amount of healing or personal growth will feel complete. Shadow work isn't about becoming someone new. It's about releasing who you were, who you had to be in order to survive. Not by changing yourself, but by integrating parts of yourself that you hid or were once suppressed. Welcome back to Mindset of a Goddess TV, a space where we focus on becoming whole spiritually and practically. Emotional self-leadership is a core part of whole person transformation. It's built on emotional intelligence, the ability to stay aware, grounded, and self-directed even when emotions are present. As your coach, I want to talk about how shadow work helps you let go of your old identity so you can live authentically. Not from survival, not from performance, but from truth. Now, shadow work has gotten a reputation for being dark or intimidating, which pushes people away from even doing it, attempting it, or even thinking about it. But really, it's about honesty with yourself. Psychologically, your old identity was formed as a coping mechanism. In most cases, 99.9% of the time, it was formed as a coping mechanism. Spiritually, it was never who you truly were, and I am guilty, or I'm part of this product as well. That's why I'm here teaching you now. It was who you became to feel safe, accepted, or in control. And this usually happens in your early teenage years or even late teenage years, and it lasts well into adulthood. Shadow work is the process of recognizing those roles without shaming yourself for them. Now, there was a moment in my own life where I realized a version of me that got through hard seasons couldn't take me into the life I wanted to live. And of course, you can always dream or visualize the life that you want, but if your energy doesn't match that life that you want or dream of, even if it is freedom or just keeping it simple, if your energy doesn't match, then it would be very hard to obtain it. But, on this channel, we talk about becoming prosperous, so that's the state of mind that I'm speaking from. That identity was very strong, responsible, and always trying to hold it together. But it was always exhausted, sometimes people-pleasing, and sometimes a little stubborn, or maybe a lot of stubborn, but very stubborn as well. Letting go of that version didn't feel empowering at first. It felt very scary, very uncertain, and I doubted myself a lot. Like, am I sure, or am I doing this right? That imposter syndrome started kicking in a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty started kicking in. And I was very resistant as well. It felt very disorienting. Because when you lived for a certain version of yourself for a long time, releasing it can feel like losing yourself. It can feel like your whole world is going to change. But sometimes it's the way we just perceive it, even when it's actually how you find yourself. Instead of thinking of losing everything, including the people, and including like things that you actually want to hold on to, it's really just letting everything fall apart so you can bring what matters or what brings you joy back together. So it's not necessarily about losing it all. And sometimes, of course, if you watch my previous episodes, I always say that you never know what's on the other side, because what's on the other side of once you let go is usually better, or it's usually like more so what you desire. There's nothing that you receive is something that you don't want, unless, you operating from karmic cycles or chaos. So let's talk about how old identities are formed. Most people don't consciously choose their identity, as I stated before. It forms in response to pressure. You learn who to be based on what's rewarded. what's rewarded in society or in environments that you include yourself in. You go based on what's recognized, what's accepted, what's punished, and what keeps you safe. Over time, those experiences shape roles. It starts to help you form an identity, and you start slapping all types of labels on yourself, and then eventually you do it to others. Examples you can name naturally usually are the people pleaser, the overachiever, the emotionally guarded one, the avoidant, the loner. And I know, and I always say, and I know people always say, and I feel the same way, that there's a difference between being lonely and being in solitude, of course. So when I speak on a loner, I mean people who choose to be alone and not embrace new, or always have many defense mechanisms held up to the point where they don't want to let anybody new in. Or the strong one who never needs help, the one who builds identity around trauma, and the one who labels themselves to make sense of pain. These are not personality traits. These are survival strategies. Why does letting go feel so uncomfortable? Letting go of your old identity can feel very, very scary because your nervous system is wired for safety. Whether you want to believe it or not, you may feel like doing yoga or praying you feel calm and you're okay. But that's just temporary fixes. It's not permanent. Your nervous system is naturally going to go wherever you make it feel safe. The nervous system often prefers familiar pain over familiar freedom, especially when you're not used to experiencing it or being around people who naturally are free or prioritize being free. But there's this thing, you can still transition to evolution. When you choose to evolve and transition, that doesn't mean you'll always feel this way. It doesn't mean that you will always feel like you're in fear, or you always feel nervous or uncertain, or such as the fear of unknown. It's normal to experience nostalgia, old emotions, old urges, even old versions of yourself showing up. It's very normal. It comes down to how you choose to handle those emotions or what you choose to think about. Now, this is where revision comes in. Revision is the moment you pause and remind yourself, I'm not going backwards. I'm reprocessing from a new level of awareness. And then once you practice revision and you understand the point of revision, because it's not, as I stated before, it's not just letting everything go and act like it didn't happen. That's not what it is. It's just taking your emotions out of it and seeing it for what it is, but not allowing yourself to dwell on it or stay stuck. You're not being pulled into the past. You're integrating it. So it no longer controls you. From a spiritual point of view, transformation always involves a death before a rebirth. You're not failing, you're shedding. Let's talk about what shadow work looks like in practice. Shadow work begins when you truly decide to work on yourself. When you choose to come home to who you really are, instead of judging who you had to be. Instead of asking, what's wrong with me? You can ask, what was I protecting myself from? You have to remember, you choose the version of yourself you want to be. That's part of having free will. And you start working on loving it. Once you choose, then you work on loving that version of yourself. Some practical examples of shadow work: noticing triggers instead of reacting. Not being so reactive in decision making. This includes how you deal with people as well and their actions. Catching yourself performing instead of expressing. Allowing grief for old versions without clinging to them. Creating more positive or rational thoughts. And taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This is integration. And remember that, not a self-attack. Now, of course, when you're doing shadow work, you are very honest with yourself. And this is when you become the most authentic version of yourself as well. Authenticity isn't loud. It's not performative. Authenticity feels steady, and it's surely not tied to perfectionism. It looks like clearer boundaries, less over-explaining, emotional self-leadership, a balanced social life where you're not feeling drained by every interaction, saying no or that's not who I am, quiet confidence, emotional regulation, mirroring instead of overgiving or trying to be Bob the Builder or trying to fix, or Mr. or Mrs. Fix It, I like to call it. That's what it looks like to step into authenticity. When you let go of the old identity, you don't become careless, you become honest. So in this video, we talked about how shadow work isn't about fixing yourself. It's about recognizing the identity you formed to survive, understand why it existed, and consciously choosing to live from truth and not fear. Being authentically, unapologetically, and perfectly you. Not a fantasy version that's unrealistic, but a version that's prosperous, abundant, and grounded in emotional balance. I know how uncomfortable identity shifts can be. I've had to release versions of myself that once felt necessary, even protective, whether it was protecting my ego or just protecting myself within an environment or even from certain people. But what I learned is this: peace doesn't come from holding it all together. It comes from living in alignment with who you actually are, who you were meant to become. And I truly believe this, and this was actually quoted by Myron Golden, not the exact words, but he said it first. The more you become who you are meant to be, the more prosperous your life becomes. Not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, and relationally. Prosperity follows authenticity. If you're in that in-between space, not who you were, but not fully who you're becoming, you're not lost. You're transforming. If you enjoyed this video or resonated, make sure you like the video or comment your feedback. I appreciate you supporting and watching. Check out my latest videos that targets transformation and enlightenment. And if there's a topic you want me to speak more on, please leave a comment. For any coaching services, check the description box or check out my Instagram for more info. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.